Hey everybody, this is Brad Rourke, and I'm going to show you how I string my guitar. A friend of mine asked me how I do that, and I sent him an email telling him how I did, and he said, wow, that's sort of different. And it was hard for me to explain it in the email, so I thought I'd just show you. So basically, this is my guitar. You need a guitar with strings you want to change. You need strings. I use Beefy Slinkies by Ernie Ball. You can use any kind of electric guitar strings. This method works for electric guitars. Use a different method for acoustic. It helps to have sometimes a pair of needle nose pliers. Definitely helps to have a pair of wire cutters to cut the loose ends off of the strings, and you'll need a tuner, of course. So what you start with is you loosen all the strings, and some people, if you go online and you look at like how to restring your guitar, you'll see some people say, well, you should do one string at a time because your neck will warp or something, and that's all bogus. Actually, it's easiest, the neck will be fine if you have to take all the strings off. It's easiest to take all the strings off at once, put them all in, and then tighten them up. So you just loosen them all and you cut them. Bam, bam, bam. Okay? And then you take all the ones at this end, push them through so you can see the other end. Okay. Set those aside. You don't need your dead strings anymore. And then just take these off. You'll notice these are coming off pretty easy. Here's where it sometimes is useful to have needle nose pliers. But you'll notice that I'm not really unwrapping a heck of a lot. And that is because of this method I use that is a little bit different. Oops. There. Almost done here. So these thicker ones are a little harder. So here's where it's useful to, there we go. Sorry if I'm hitting the cameraman in the face. So I guess I call this method the hook. And you'll see in just a second when I get the strings through what I mean by that. Alright, so now you've got a bare guitar. It's got no strings. You notice how each of these tuning pegs, they all have a hole going through them, right? So it's easiest if you turn the tuning pegs so that the hole is pointing up and down. So while you've got all the strings off, just go ahead and do that. That makes it easier when you go ahead and string to just run the string up through here and through the tuning post. Okay. So then I always start with the big strings and go down to little strings. So the big string, but what I do is instead of going string by string, put them all in. One. So you see, you basically just thread it through the back. Different guitars have different ways of doing this. So Strats are string through body guitars. Les Pauls, you don't do this. You go through on the other side and you just stay on the front, and there's a little tail stop. But the basic idea is the same. You've got a hole to get it through. Just get them all through at once. Get this part out of the way so you can work on the important part. There we go, we're almost done. This is the G string. When you feel the G string, you'll feel how it's always like the heaviest of the non-wound strings. It's always the one that goes out of tune too, because it's under more tension when you're done, when you're all set up. So if you're just trying to do a quick tune-up between tunes, just work on your G string. It's the one that's probably going to be out of tune. And sometimes it's hard to get through the little hole at the bottom. There we go. And here goes the last one. Okay, so this is the high E string. Alright. So pull all these through, make sure they go all the way to the stop. Just flip it over. Okay, so now you've got all the strings coming out here. And you're going to do one by one. So here's the thing. Grab it at this end, go up here, and this is the hook. Put it through. So it's sort of loosely tense. Now holding it in your strong hand, pull it around. Pull it under. Now pull it over. So you've made a little hook. Now, just hand tighten it a little bit. Just enough to like have it not be really loose. You're going to tighten it a bit later. So the difference here is that a lot of people, when they string their guitar, they like wrap the wire just around and around and around and around, and the myth is that creates some sort of better connection with the tuning post or something. But in reality, what's really going on is that those winds that you do are uneven and can get in the way, and you actually can often get a worse connection. This way, you've got one point of contact between the string and the tuning post, so you pull it around, keep the tension there because you want to bend there, and then you want to get strong that way, and then over. And what this little hook does is when you tighten it, I don't know if you can see I'm doing that, when you tighten it, this hook, you keep bending it a little so it just stays, is enough to ensure that this whole assembly is solid. When you're done, you're just going to snip these, but for now I'm going to leave them. So it's pretty easy. The easiest ones are these big wound strings. Wound. It's important to have a little bit of tension, so tug it a little bit around so it's loose, but it's not so loose that but it's not so loose that it's really like spaghetti. Otherwise, you're just going to have to be turning this tuning post like forever. So just keep pressing down on that, as it's going to have a tendency to pop up. When you're done, it won't do that anymore. Okay. Okay, now I'm on the G string. This usually poses a problem because it's so thick. It's like a thick piece of wire. It's actually harder than the other ones to do. So sometimes you make sure it's all good through. Sometimes for this, it's actually easier to use those needle nose pliers I mentioned before. Not necessary. But you got to make sure that you're really at each turn is firm. That should be good enough. Alright, 2 more to go. These last two, the B and the E, they pose their own little challenges because they are so so tiny. Sometimes it's hard to really get this quite right, and you end up having to leave a little loose and just wind it around with the tuning peg. This looks like that worked pretty well. And on a Strat, you've got this string tree here to make sure that these upper two strings come in at the right angle. So they go down and then come in at the right angle for these tuning posts. Your own guitar will have different, this is an American Strat, which means it's got just the one tree. Other Strats will have more trees. Some won't, and some guitars won't have any. So that's just up to you. There we go. Okay. And you'll notice that in each case, because it's a Strat with all the tuning pegs on one side, I'm turning, each one of these is going counterclockwise around. With Gibsons, like Les Pauls, where you've got 3 on this side and 3 on this side, these are going to be counterclockwise. These ones will be clockwise. So you'll come in, and then you'll go like this. So you're wrapping the opposite way because you're going to turn the tuning post clockwise so that the strings go like this when there's 3 like that. In this case, I don't have to worry about that. So that sounds terrible. The next step is to tune it. I'm not going to do that for you. But note with new strings, first thing you got to do is make sure that you are giving a good tug. Like, don't be worried, just give it a good tug. They're going to loosen up over time. First couple of days, they're going to get out of tune, like after every song. I made a mistake. See, yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. Sometimes that happens. It's good to have an extra box of strings around. I pulled too hard, and it popped right there. So, didn't expect that. I'm going to go and change that later. But bear in mind that as you tune, you're going to want to tune from the bottom to the top because these have the most tension. And then so you're going to tune, 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 tune. By the time you get down to here, you're going to go back up to here, and you'll find that each string that you tune puts more tension on the neck. So then this tune will be, this string will be flat, and you'll need to retune it. So you've got to go through 2 or 3 times when you first put new strings on, getting each string in tune, because then when you go back to the top, they'll be out of tune. So just keep doing that until you've got every string in tune, and you're good to go. So that's how I restring my guitar. When you're done, like I say, just cut these off, and it's very tidy, or you can look all rock and roll and have them flop around. So, thanks.